Welcome to Devotional Digest. We are talking this evening about how to get married. What are the steps to take? If whether or not you have a partner, we're looking more so at the legal steps more than the relationship. We'll discuss the relationships, but we're looking at the legal steps to take to get married in Jamaica. We will probably have to find a marriage officer in a different country or in your country that you are. But for right now, we're looking at in Jamaica preparation for marriage and what steps to take. Statistics show that less than 30%, less than 90%, let me try that again. Statistics show that less than 10% of Jamaicans under 30 get married. And that figure is very low because this, getting married before age 30 is a good thing that the couple help to grow together and so on. So we're looking at what the challenges are, and we have an expert to talk with us this evening. All right, welcome. Invite somebody to join, and looking forward to being with you for the discussion. Okay, so this evening we have in studio Pastor Roy Dennis. Pastor Roy Dennis is the Family Ministers Director of the Central Jamaica Conference of St. Venice, and he has been a marriage officer for some years now. He'll tell us in a little while, and he'll be our expert witness in discussing this very important subject. All right, Pastor Dennis, welcome to the Devotional Digest.
All right, thank you. I like
Yes, sir,
you so
welcome.
much.
No,
Good to be with you on Devotional
let
Digest.
me, I'm not hearing you so well, so let me get that sorted out in a bit. Okay, let me try that again. Can you hear me?
Yes, I'm hearing you.
Okay, very good. All right, thank you. So, um, Pastor Dennis, tell us about your experience. How long have you been a marriage officer and how many weddings have you conducted so far?
Okay, well, let me start by saying that I have been a pastor for 22 years, um, assisting in weddings, firstly as an intern pastor for the first 4 years, and then after ordination, in the Adventist church, you have to be ordained to ministry before you are recommended to be a marriage officer. And being a marriage officer is we have to make an application to the government through the RGD, and I think now it is the Ministry of Justice. And so I have been a marriage officer since 2003. I think that would be 18 years. And since then, conducting my own weddings, I have conducted 243 weddings.
Wow, that's quite a bit. 200 and, I have
Yes.
not gotten to 43 as yet, but so that's
Yeah,
quite a feat.
okay, you have 200 more to come.
Right. Um, you know, um, Let me ask you this question. How much responsibility do you take as a counselor or a marriage officer for the success of the marriages that you conduct? I mean, sometimes you may conduct a wedding that you didn't do the counseling for, but those that you have taken from the counseling stage onwards, how involved are you as a marriage officer or counselor in that process?
It is a lot of responsibility. Um, the couple coming to you most of the times don't know the process, and so you are guiding them through the process. And also, they come exuberant, wanting to set a date to be married, but also they might not even be compatible. So you are helping them now to find out if this is a workable relationship. And so we have to take responsibility for the preparation in terms of the counseling. And so a number of sessions are lined up. and then you take them through the process to examine the relationship. You have to also assist them with the preparation for the wedding day.
Yes.
What is going to take place on that day. And then after the marriage, I will also continue married. I remain their marriage officer as long as I live, or as long as they live, whichever,
Yes.
so I continue to give support to the families
Mhm.
after. And this support that I give both before and after is free to them. There for the wedding day, there is a marriage officer's fee, which is to cover the expenses of your travel. But generally, the Adventist pastor would take them through counseling, premarital counseling, and marriage counseling at no cost to them.
No
So
cost.
there is tremendous responsibility involved. We
That's
have
an
to also
important
ensure
point
that
to make. Yes.
the
Yes. Before we get to
legal
the legal,
documents are
before we get to the
lodged with
legal,
the government.
before we get to the legal aspect, though, it's an important point to make about afterwards. Because what I've found is that
Mhm.
when problems develop in marriage, one of the most challenging thing I've seen is finding somebody to trust. And I believe that once you get to that process where you brought them through, it is easier for them to
Yes,
trust you in dealing with issues after. So that's an important point.
right,
Before
right.
we get to the
So we
legal
continue
issues,
that so we continue that counseling relationship with the couples.
very good. So before we get to the legal aspect of it, have you ever had to say to a couple, I can't do this wedding for whatever reason because
Yes,
they're not ready?
several couples, and the premarital counseling will determine that. So the first session, I make it clear that they can choose not to continue with me anytime because I don't
Mm-hmm.
charge them for the session. Now there are persons who are not from my organization who will come and pay me to do counseling. That's a different thing. They don't want me to be their marriage officer, but they will pay for the counseling sessions. So you have those cases. But the cases that I am the marriage officer for, I share with them that me as marriage officer. And also, I let them know that if I see that they are not suitable, I can
Mm-hmm.
choose not to conduct their marriages. And
Mm-hmm.
so there have been couples, for example, case of domestic violence, that I have had to say you're not ready for marriage, or you might have you might have they are not compatible, or they might be unequally yoked. Well, they're not yoked yet, but they are not of the same religious persuasion.
Uh-huh.
So in those cases, I may still do the counseling with them, but I don't do the weddings for persons who are of different religious persuasions because of
Mm-hmm.
the possible challenges that they are going to inevitably deal with. Um,
Yes.
Also, I have had cases where persons are unable to balance their budget, um,
Mm-hmm.
and that is one of the things that they need to do to show that even if they're going to live in a one bedroom, that they will be able to finance their marriage. And so there are several reasons. There are persons who have had situations in their past that is unresolved. For example, sexual assault like rape or molestation, and they have not gotten over those issues. And so they are not ready for marriage.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so there are persons who have just met each other and it is too early for them to be married. So there are several reasons that I have had to say, um, I am not able to do this wedding because you are not ready for marriage.
Very interesting. Those are interesting situations or scenarios where you may have to say no. I can personally, as a marriage officer, can
Right.
identify with the budget balancing part, especially if one
You're
the
right.
male is not working. The female might be
Right.
excited, but I let her know that the truth is that at the end of the day, um, you're gonna end up in a situation where um, the man cannot provide, and that's gonna create a problem. All right, very good.
Right.
Now, Pastor Dennis, statistics show that there's a low percentage of Jamaican population who gets married, especially those below the age of
Yes.
30. And why is
Mm.
this so? Why do you think this is so? And what do you think? Do you think ignorance have anything to play with it, to do with it?
Okay. Yes. Let me start with history. Um, Remember where we're coming from. That the slaves were brought to Jamaica, and these, especially those big, tall men, were not allowed to marry the women that they loved because they were used as breeders. So they would allow these men to have a lot of children, and the children were properties for the slave masters. And then they would transfer or sell these children to different properties. So if they found that a man and a woman was in love, the slave masters would often separate them. The woman would stay home and take care of the children, and the man would go and work on the plantations. And so, coming from a historical background, marriage was not a preferred way of life for the slaves. And some still maintain that type of mentality where the woman expect that she will take care of the children, she will take care of the discipline, she will go to school and make sure everything is okay at school. And the man now, he feels that his job is just to go and provide for the children. But and so even today, many Jamaicans find it difficult to adjust to the culture of marriage and a love relationship. The second reason is culture. Since the 80s and 90s, the focus, after independence has been on academics and economic prosperity. So what you will find is that the parents of the 70s started sending their children and to universities. And in the 90s, coming over into the 2000s, we find that especially ladies, because 75% of those at higher level education are females, the parents are pushing their children now to get education first. Take your book and don't have a relationship with a man because that can cause pregnancy, and that can cause you not to be focused. So people are now focusing on economics and academics until they're about 25, 30. Average
Mm-hmm.
30 people after 30 now, you see the medical doctors, this studying 14 years. I myself have studied 12 years up to my doctorate, but what I did it in stages. I did the bachelor's and I got married after that. So often I recommend even to medical doctors that don't go for specialization. By the time you do that, you will be 30, 30, 35. And
Mm-hmm.
so academics and economics is one of the strong reasons, because of poverty in the past and parents don't want their children to suffer from that, is one of the reasons why young people are not getting married early. But you didn't ask me the question, Pastor, but I want to touch that there are some
That's all right.
challenges with this.
Yes.
so,
Yes. Go ahead.
so what you will find is that this young lawyer now who finishes at 30 and 35, they and the young man, maybe working in the bank, they are not gonna one of the challenges, they are not gonna remain chaste and remain with their Christian integrity in terms of remaining sexually pure until they are 30. Studies in Jamaica has shown that 98% of males, by the time they are 24, would have been sexually involved, and 89% of females have been sex. So they are not maintaining their sexual purity until they are 30, and second marriage is one of the predictors of failure in marriage. So they would have been exposed to one two or maybe several persons, and that puts them at a disadvantage from marriage. Second,
Yes.
the prime childbearing years um, are gone by the time they are 35. So what some people will do is rush to have a child, which is devastating for marriage, because when you're married, you're supposed to build a foundation before you introduce a third party. Rush to have children. And sometimes what you find that the older you have children, the more you're at risk for developmental disorders like autism and
Mm-hmm.
so on, mental retardation. So there are some challenges there. So,
Right. So
you could get
yes,
married too early, like in the teen years, but you could also wait and suffer some The other one, Pastor, I need to touch on is selfishness.
yes,
By the time you finish with your degree and you buy a car, the first thing you're going to do is buy a car. And Jamaica makes it easy to buy your house, your two-bedroom house. So you start saying my car, and so on. So when you're supposed to marry someone, you don't want to share your house, you don't want to share your bank account. And if you share, marriage is not the place for it.
mm. So you're saying, based on what you're saying, Pastor, then um, a marriageable age, if you could put it that way, maybe between 23 to the high 20s, like 27 thereabout. Um, that what
Yes,
what I'm getting from you is that when you grow up together, for example, my wife and I, we started with in a one bedroom, and we had our little
yes,
furniture here and there. We grew together. We saw this thing together, so it's easier for us to stick to it and
yes,
just to see what we earn as ours rather than yours and
yes.
mine. Very important
And
point
I,
there.
and I
What
want to
about
read
those
a
pastors then
statement from
who
Ellen White.
who have
I,
found a
I want to
partner
read a statement.
early, but they are shacking up and they are not getting married. They're not tying the knot. They are in a relationship.
Right.
They are having sexual relations. They are having children, but they're just not getting married.
Yes, and as I said, no, we have that culture. We have come out of it's the slave culture that we have come out of, where people don't think that we should get married. But shocking how some people you're married, but living together and marriage is not the same. What you find is that people will live together for years and then just move on to another relationship. So there is no commitment. There is no commitment. So when I've been called by a woman who her common law husband is unfaithful, I don't know if you can say common law and husband together, but the common law husband is faithful. And one of the questions I asked her is this: Did you make a commitment that he would be faithful to you? She said no. I mean, he's not a Christian, so he never made a commitment to God, and he never made a commitment to her. And I said, maybe you need to talk about that, because you expect him to be faithful, but maybe he does not expect to be faithful to you. And one of the reasons why many men don't want to put on the ring in Jamaica is that they want to be able to have more than one. And I have surprisingly found in living together, even for years, there is no commitment. And the commitment must come first before you're sealing a contract through sexual relations.
Very interesting, Pastor. What are some of the benefits of getting married? Practical
Yes.
benefits, of course.
Yes, and some of the practical benefits that we can derive from getting married is a stable home and family. So you are together, you're together in every area of life. You're together in communication. You're together in complementing one another. You know, you're together in parenting your children. So you know, marriage a stable, um, stable home. It helps to create stable society. So what it does. Also, um, it marriage helps to keep to provide um, parental presence. So the lack of parental presence is a big issue in Jamaica, where 75% of the homes are single parent homes. And it's because people just live together or get involved sexually and have children, but they were not married. But if you're married now, you will not have so much absenteeism, both of father and mother. Marriage also, studies have shown that marriage creates wealth. So you and your wife, for instance, instead of one person renting a house and have to
Right.
pay the light and the water and so on, you share, both of you pool your resources together. And so instead of one person paying 30,000 for rent, um, when you pool your resources now, you are able to have more resources in order to take. Two of you share the same bed. Even bed you share together, so you don't have to buy two beds. You share the same refrigerator. You can share the same car. You share the same
Yes.
rent. So it is proven. Studies have proven that married people are wealthy. Um, Marriage creates respect for families in the community and in the society. And marriage also helps to assist with religious integrity. So those are some of the benefits of getting married.
And those are important benefits, very important benefits, especially with the
Yes.
mortgage. When
Yes.
one person, for example, at NAC, I'm not sure what the amount of money you get now, but maybe like say one person get 4.5 million.
Yes.
If you put two together, that's 9 million. So those are
Yes.
some practical benefit. The Bible
9
says
million.
two are better than one. You know, um,
Hmm.
so marriage
Yes.
is beneficial.
And I remember one lady who was ill, and she said, you know, when we had the Zik V and the Chick V, and she said she was sick and she had no one to call on, when she couldn't get up out of bed. So there are some tremendous benefits
Yes,
from being married.
yes, very, very, very important. Now, so okay, so now that let's talk to a person who they have partner, they live together, but they are not married. Or maybe
Mhm,
they have a partner, not living together, they are courting, um, but they
mhm.
don't know the first step to take. Take us through now, Pastor. What are the steps to take to getting married?
All right. So when we talk about preparation for marriage, I want to start firstly with self-preparation. Um, Pastor Martin Barrow often says marriage begins not by finding the right person, but by being the right person. So you have to prepare yourself to to be able to balance your budget. So you have to equip yourself with a skill or a degree. A lot of persons don't get married to. That's one of the reasons why they don't get married within their 20s, because they are not equipped with a skill or degree. Um, so self preparation now involves preparation, economic preparation. So you have to prepare yourself. Then the process of selection. Um, some people say every in Jamaica we normally say every hoe have him stick a bush. Some people believe it's one stick out there in the bush for them, but that's not true. There are several sticks that you could choose from. So it is a matter of selection. And so you need to equip yourself now with the ideals that you need to look for in a partner. And you need to make a selection. You may see more than one persons that you like, but you have to evaluate, as I did when I was When I met my wife at the church that she was at, there were other young ladies, and you look around and you said, all right, you evaluate by looking at their family, you evaluate by looking at how well they are doing in the church, you evaluate by how well they are doing academically, and how they read. You do your evaluation. This is where compatibility comes in terms of age, in terms of academics, in terms of finance, in terms of culture and social exposure. So you're going to make your selection. You make your selection, and you're going to go through a process of dating. So friendship first. You start with friends. So in back in my day, we would write a letter, and then the person would respond. And roses are red, violets are blue, sugar is sweet, but not as sweet. And you start something up, and then they respond. Nowadays, you might use the phone, WhatsApp. You might get the person's number and you send a WhatsApp message, or you might find the person on Facebook. So social media is now playing a big role, and you start communicating with one another. And so you start showing interest in one another. That's how you become friends. Friendship, then friendship, dating. You start going, maybe having dinner and so on. We encourage you to date in the light, date where people are. Don't isolate yourself. All right?
Mm-hmm.
So dating. Then now, when you see that this person is somebody that I can marry, then you're going to move to a process called courtship. Courtship now is when you're dating, you probably don't reach a stage that you are saying this is the one. But courtship now is when you say, I could examine this closer for marriage. And then engagement and marriage. So selection, right? So you're going to select the person. And God has given you the wisdom to do so. Then now, after you decide that you're going to court now, then you have to start looking around now for a marriage officer. From you start thinking about marriage, before you set a date, you start looking around for a marriage officer. Many pastors are marriage officers, so you might not need to look far, because if you go to church, your pastor may be a marriage officer. Some people look for a special marriage officer, but as I said, you look for a marriage officer. The marriage officer will take you now, would help to take you to the process of counseling in preparation for marriage. All right, having found the marriage officer, you request premarital counseling. What is this about? The premarital counseling is to prepare you for the wedding day. That's one. Premarital counseling is to help you to evaluate the relationship. And the premarital counseling is to help to prepare you for the marriage. That is the day after the wedding and the rest of time that you're going to live together. That's what the premarital counseling does. And so we will look at the prepare enrich, which is one of the premarital issues. So some people think that they've been premarital for 20 and 30 sessions. I don't subscribe to that. I believe that within 10 sessions, you can, except you have a special situation. So you're going to look at 10 areas that affects relationships, such as communication, conflict resolution, finance, sexual intimacy and family planning, parenting, religious beliefs and practice, goals and objectives. So those are some of the, and then I normally take the couple through a family genogram, where we study a family background to see how things of the past can affect your relationship. Like abuse in the family can affect the relationship, wrong disciplinary measures can affect the relationship, your birth order or illnesses that runs in the family can affect the relationship. And so we study your family background, and so we go through the counseling. When you come closer to the wedding now, the marriage officer will guide you now through the posting of some legal documents. So I'm going to share with you. So there are two authorities to do weddings in Jamaica. We're dealing now with the legal documents. Two authorities. And you have the minister's license. By minister there, it's not talking about the pastor. It's talking about the Ministry of Justice. That's the
Mm-hmm.
government minister. So they call that one minister's license. The pastor or the marriage officer has an authority that he is authorized by the government to do wedding. That authority is called marriage officer's certificate. What are the differences between the two? One, the minister's license you will obtain in Kingston from the Ministry of Justice. Or you can, when you go to marriage places that offer marriages like the hotels and so on, they will apply for it for you. So you will turn in your documents and the government will give you a stamp document to take to the marriage officer to say you can marry this person on it. So from the Minister of Justice give you that authority, you don't have to do any counseling. This type of wedding is normally utilized by apply and they get a license to do wedding. The one that we generally use as marriage officers is called marriage officer's certificate. So there's a form that just like the minister would send a form to you, which is stamped, the marriage officer has to write up a form and give himself permission to do the wedding. But this is after you would have applied. So you apply on a government document called Notice for Banns. That's the first form you're going to fill out. It's called the Notice for Banns. You're giving the marriage officer notice to publish banns that you're going to get married. After the marriage officer gets the notice for banns, it gives him permission to publish now what is called a public notice. And so he will put that public notice at least 9 days before the wedding. No
So Pastor,
later
that
than
means
that. At least
I can't come to you today and say we want to get married tomorrow.
unless you come with a minister's license which give me to say marry you on site. But the marriage officer certificate, you have to come at least 9 days before. The law says 7 clear days, which does not include the day when you can. So I normally say 9 days. All right. So you have notice for banns. Then now, before any time in the process, I can write up my authority to say give myself permission to do the wedding, but I must do that. All right. The law also requires now the ID that I have a copy of your ID, a valid ID, and a copy of your birth certificate. And if the person is a divorcee, the divorce absolute. There are two documents given at the ending of a divorce. One that is called a divorce nicety, which is when a divorce is completing, the government will give the people 6 weeks to decide if they want to change their mind. So if they don't change their mind, they will get now what is called an absolute. If the person has a nicety, they are not divorced yet. The marriage would continue. So no marriage officer should accept, and if they will be in trouble. You must see absolute in it. And they get a divorce absolute if they are divorced. So these are the documents, the notice for banns, the authority. There's a document that I would write up, a scheduled authority for me to perform the wedding as a marriage officer. The public notice I need that I will fill out. Then I will need your ID. I will need your birth certificate. And if you're a divorcee, the divorce absolute. Those are the things, legal documents that are needed before.
Not only plan the wedding date, but I have been called before to say, Pastor, everything is set. We just need a marriage officer now, and less than 9 days I have to do the wedding, and that spells trouble, a lot of trouble. So this is important information for persons to
Yes.
understand that they are by themselves cannot plan a wedding. They need, as you said, the authority. If they want to go to the Ministry of Justice, fine, but they still need a marriage officer to perform that wedding. Anything else on the legal side of it,
Yes,
Pastor?
one
I
of
have some questions.
one of the other
Yes.
yeah, yes, one of the other differences between the minister's license and the marriage officer's certificate is that by law, the marriage officer's certificate, when I authorize myself to do the wedding, the law says I must perform counseling. But the minister's license, I don't have to do any counseling. So you could do the counseling, but you're not required under the law.
Okay. Okay. Very
So
good.
they can get it and you still do their counseling in their interest because counseling is beneficial to the couple. But with the minister's license, I'm required. So if you're going to come in 9 days, you're not going to be able to go through the counseling, um, uh, the length of the counseling sessions.
But in your presentation, I've not heard you mention anything about reception or service. You're
Right.
saying that
So
none
I
of that
was
is required
moving
for
to
a
that.
wedding?
So I was moving to that now. So the next part of the planning now, and I left that for last because that is the one that all the others have to be in place. And that part you could leave that out if you want because to be married, all I need is in Jamaica is a man and a woman, male and a female, and two witnesses who can sign their names.
Yes.
So the two witnesses, some people think it must be a male and a female, but it's not necessarily so. Two witnesses, 18 years and older, who can sign their names, and the couple, and I can perform the wedding. You don't need a wedding band, you don't need a church, you don't need anything else. You don't. As a matter of fact, you don't even need clothes if you don't want. So the only two witnesses and a man and a woman, a male and a female. Um, so as I said now, a part of the preparation is to prepare you for the wedding day. So going through the counseling, when we're coming closer to the time, I will assist now the couple in preparing the wedding program and also prepare them for what is going to take place on the wedding day. But really, at this guiding you through reception and so on. So you may need a wedding planner or somebody who has the experience in going through weddings now to ensure that your cake is baked, that your venue is booked, that you get the right colors for those who want to have that type of reception. You're gonna need now a wedding planner to help you with that. The marriage officer will and pastor will help you with the religious service aspect of it. You can, if you're going to book a church, if you're not my member, and it is up to you to find the church where you want to go. You don't have to marry in a church. I've done weddings on the beach. I have done a wedding on I did one on a boat that I was not sure what the address was because you're required by law to put the address, and that created a
On the
problem.
sea.
But it was on the sea. So I'm just, so you choose where you want to go. And as I said, no, the transportation cost for the marriage officer is up to you. So if you want to take me to Montego Bay from St. Catherine, it is not my expense. It's going to be your expense. If you're going to take me on a boat, I'm not going to pay the fee. You will have to pay the fee. Right. So
Yes.
so that's how marriage works.
Very good, Pastor. Just before I go into these questions that I have here, how important is it to get endorsement from your church and family in getting married?
This is important. The views
Mhm.
of your loved ones are important. So even from the second session that I have in premarital counseling, we focus on the genogram. And one of the questions on the genogram is, how have your friends and family members responded to you since
Mhm.
you informed them that you are getting married? Some of the persons say, we have not informed them. And then I have to
Mhm.
ask why.
Mhm.
Because it might be that you realize something is wrong while you're hiding it from them.
Mhm.
And sometimes your parents, for instance, and persons who have experience can see some things that when you're hot in love, you don't see, that they can guide you on. So
Mhm.
and so not only that, I asked the man if he has spent any time with the fiance's family. So
Right.
so I needed to go now and hear from Keisha's brother, my wife's brother, before I get married, what they think about her.
Mhm.
And
Yes.
so if the family is saying good things about her, the friends saying good things about her, then chances chances are you have, somebody who consistently is a good person. But if everybody is saying, this is a cruel girl, you know, or this is a rough man, you know,
Yes.
uncompromising, then you have to know, even though you're hot in love, you have to examine that to see if you can live with such a person.
Okay, so what about that's for the family. What about the church now? Should a person comes to you, do you ask them about their pastor and whether or not the pastor is aware that they getting married?
Yes, and so I believe their pastoral ethics. What many Christians, and speaking for the Adventist Church, what some Adventists who are getting married do is that they don't inform their pastor. They go to another church and they get married. I have had several cases where the couple just show up at church, and I am the pastor, and I am being told as I'm going on the platform to announce that the newest married couple is here, when I was not informed that they are getting married. So this is important, that if you're going to live with someone, your pastor needs to know that you're married, that it doesn't create any conflict. So you don't need to invite your pastor to your wedding. You don't have to.
Mm,
All you need to do is to just let them know that you are getting married. And that's all you need to know. If you want to invite them, then that's fine. You can choose anyone you want for your marriage officer. So what I
yes.
do is that when a couple comes to me at the conference, for instance, I'm now holding a district, but generally my role is at the conference office. So when I'm at the conference and I'm not holding a district, I don't have a church. So what I do, and even when I have a church, like I'm at St. John's now, and a couple comes from another district, I have a little form that I send to their pastor, and I tell them I'm going to send it to their pastor, that I fill out that I have received notice from John Brown and Jane Wilson
Mm,
for me to do to publish the legal documents for them to get married. And I am just informing you that they are in my care for premarital
okay.
preparation.
Very good. Very good. Now, let's
So
go back
I
up a
have a
little.
little
Yes.
form that I use to inform the pastor.
Let's go back up a little, Pastor. During the wedding ceremony, because one thing that surprised me as a pastor when I became a marriage officer was how short a wedding service was. Because I've been to weddings where
Yes.
it's long, but the actual legal requirement, what are the essential things that the couple will have to do at a wedding to make it legally done? What are the things that you do I mean, besides the charade
The,
and
the
so on?
only Yeah, yeah, the only two things you need to do for it to be acceptable, religious, and the law, and the only two things are stating the vow. That part that says you will keep yourself only unto this person and until death do you part. And the law requires that you say that.
Okay.
So it is a commitment to sexual faithfulness and the lifelong commitment. So that's what is in the vow, the essence of the vow. And some people write their own vows, but the law says that you have to say that you're going to keep yourself to this person, sexual commitment, and that you will stay with the person until you die. So no matter what you write, if you don't say that in it, I'm going to come back. The marriage officer should get you to say those things, but do we part? And then now the other part is that the legal document. So the same information that you give me on the notice for bans, I am going to put that information in a book that the government gives me now when I'm performing the wedding. And then the couple is going to sign to that. So if there is any error in the book, the government is going to call for the original document, which is the notice for bans, because it's the same information that is on it. So we're going to fill that information on your name and your address and your father's name, because it's a paternal country, and your age, and we say your address, and we fill that in, and you sign to it. And then now I have 24 hours to take that information, the book, and tear out. You get one copy that you will use to apply at the RGD for your marriage certificate. And then and so you'll keep that, and I will turn in one. It's a triplicate. I will turn one in, and the RGD will produce the certificate for you, so that by the time you go there, it will be printed for you. and one will stay in the book. And when the book has 15 in it, so when the book is finished, the RGD will have 2 copies because they're going to keep the one that I tore out to bring the book. I won't keep any. But what I do, I will keep the documents, the public notice and the notice for banns and the authority that I wrote up for me to do the wedding. Those I keep.
Excellent, Pastor. Very good. I appreciate it. There's some questions that persons asked. I think you covered some of them. But I want to ask this one regarding divorcee. How long after getting
Mm.
divorced can somebody start looking to get married again?
All right. I don't know if this is ethically or legally, but legally, from you have the divorce absolute. You can go to the Ministry of Justice and they will give you the minister's license, and the marriage officer is licensed to marry you upon receipt of that. And as I said now, the marriage officer certificate, at least 9 days notice. So from you have the absolute, legally you can marry, divorce absolute.
Okay.
Ethically, you might say, all right, I have how long ethically should I wait for this to blow off so that divorce, the definition for divorce is the termination of a relationship that has been falling apart for a while.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes when people divorce, they have been separated.
Long time.
I know of a person divorced and requesting marriage now, separated for 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
So so the relationship probably could have been falling apart for 5 years, for 10 years. People would have been separated. One spouse is overseas, abandoned the person and gone for a long time. So so it depends on the circumstances
Okay,
that
interesting.
ethically going to say. But one of the main things is that you must seek professional counseling help to evaluate the past relationship and the reason for your divorce before you move on into another relationship.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Very good. Very important point you made there. Now, Pastor, a young person wanted to know if you're in a courtship relationship, and as far as you say everything is going well, but the man is just not making the step to getting married. He's not engaging you. He's not moving forward.
Yes.
Can the female push him? you know, is it appropriate to nudge him?
Yes. Yes. Sometimes, I mean, that is not the first approach, but I have had more than one couples. I had a couple that I was counseling, and normally your counseling you expect it to run for maximum 1 year
Mm-hmm.
because they would have been in a relationship before they come to you. They are now courting. So 6 months to a year, you're taking them through the process. But I had a couple in counseling 2 years and they're still not married. And the man was afraid to take the step because he did not want to leave his um the young lady had to nudge him. you know the young
Mm-hmm.
lady had to nudge him. And I have had other cases too. I've had another case where I had to say to the young lady, he doesn't want to set a date. We know that they are in love with one another. So you set the date.
Mm-hmm.
So the young lady said, Pastor, when I return, I will set the date. And when I return, I will tell you the date. So when they return, the young lady tell me the date and said, this is the date we're getting married. Because the man got cold feet and,
Yes.
wondering if he would make it in marriage. And those couples that I'm mentioning, they are still married several years now.
Mm-hmm.
They are still married today. So sometimes the men might be afraid based on the culture and based on what
Mm-hmm.
friends are saying and saying they're young and so on. But what I want to say is that, listen, if you're within your 20s, you're not too young to get married, because I would say that you don't want to get married below 20 because you might not be sure enough. But you don't want to wait too long after 30 because you would probably pick up so much baggages that it would create challenges for your marriage also.
Mm-hmm.
So you would want to establish a social relationship and prepare yourself in life, not only for academics and economics, but for marriage. So when you are in university, you should establish social relationships. When you are coming out of high school and going on to a skill at heart, or going to university at NCU and UTech and UWI, you should be preparing yourself socially that you can get married.
Excellent, excellent, Pastor. We're getting solid advice here. And folks, if you're listening and you're watching, you have questions, please post it in the chat. Maybe we'll have to have a part two because, as Pastor Dennis spoke, I have to respect his time. There are several other issues that are coming out. But let us know if you'll have to get a part two. But Pastor, we have to close. You answered some of the questions that I was going to ask in your statement just now. So the discussion this evening has been about how to get married, the legal aspects as well as the relational aspects. We didn't discuss much about finding a partner and such. We just want to get you over the head because I know of persons who are of a marriageable age and the relationship is mature enough that they can get married but don't know the first steps to take. Pastor, we have taken us through that and we're very grateful for it. Thank you so much for watching. And Pastor Dennis, thank you for being here and for sharing with our with
Yes.
our viewers. All right. So thank you again, Pastor
Yes.
Dennis, and thank you for listening. And God bless you, Richie. We again apologize for the glitches we had earlier, and we ask that you may pray for this program that God will bless. If you have not yet subscribed, please subscribe. Please like the page, and looking forward to seeing you next week on another devotional digest.